Good morning. I'm Kerry Root. Welcome to our next BBB webinar. This one is called Avoid the IT Trap. Stop IT from being a distraction to your business's success. This is our newest programming edition from your BBB, and the purpose of these webinars is to share tips, tricks, and traps from one member to another. So that's what we'll be doing this morning. The objective of this morning's webinar is to deliver a lot of useful information in a very short time. We try to keep all of these to under 30 minutes, so we're respectful of your time. I'll try to end within 20 to 22 minutes or so and leave plenty of time. So if you do have questions, go ahead and you can enter them on your screen, and then at the end, I'll start addressing them one right after the other. Okay, so to get the introductory stuff out of the way, who am I and why should you believe what I'm saying? I'm the president and founder of Root Infotech. We've been around for over 30 years. A lot of people knew us as ALG, which was American Logistics Group. Personally, I've had 45 years of extensive IT experience. So even though you can't see me, trust me, I'm that old. I have worked with over 2,000 businesses in literally every major industry segment, all the way from home-based, one-person businesses, all the way up to the Department of Defense. I'm also a board member and/or a technology advisor for 11 organizations right now. I'm not going to read you the list, but as you can see, it's a wide range of industries, from banking to education to, of course, your BBB, a lot of good children's foundations. So things that I really believe in and I enjoy helping with. Okay, so let's kick this off. First thing I want to talk about is how is your IT spending? And if you're a typical organization, then more than half of your time and resources are spent not on innovative projects, but on what I call keep the lights on activities. And what I mean by that is the purpose is to prevent existing systems from breaking down. It's maintenance mode. And sometimes the percentage is a whole lot higher than that, a whole lot higher than 50%. I've seen a lot of organizations where keep the lights on is 80 to 90% of their IT budget. I'm actually working with a few clients now where it's 100%, and we're working very hard to turn that around because it's just a chokehold on the whole organization. My personal belief is that it really should be no more than 40%. There's always going to be maintenance activities that have to be done. There's no way around that. But under 40% gives you a lot more breathing room to do things that are going to help the business instead of just keeping the lights on. Imagine the benefits to your business if you could spend significantly more of your current IT budget as an investment and not an expense. I want to say that again. The whole objective is to spend as much as possible of that budget as an investment and not as an expense. Okay, well, that sounds real good, doesn't it? I mean, of course, everybody's going to want that, won't they? The big question is, how do you do it? And that's what we're going to be talking about next. Okay, to get a bit of perspective, ask yourself, are you the kind of person who would operate on himself or herself if you needed some surgery? Why not? Scalpels and sponges are really cheap. I actually did a search, and I found that you can buy a high-quality scalpel on Amazon.com for $8.09, and that includes free shipping. So from a dollar and cent standpoint, you can literally save tens of thousands of dollars over using a skilled surgeon in a hospital. What's the matter? You don't recall your high school anatomy? It's not a problem. All you have to do is go on Google or Wikipedia, and they clearly explain, even with photos, everything you need to know about almost any procedure. It's actually out there. How about, have you ever known someone who defended themselves in court? And you've probably heard what attorneys have to say about those sorts of people. What about repairing high voltage electrical lines going into your building? Ever want to dabble in that? So ask yourself, why is it that so many businesses don't do the same philosophy with their information technology? Of course you wouldn't operate on yourself. Of course you wouldn't work on high voltage electrical lines without a lot of expertise. And yet so many businesses just throw all kinds of informal people, expertise, procedures at their IT with no credential backgrounds or experience. And examples. A lot of businesses I've worked with, they have nephews or sons or daughters that come in and help them out with either the Access database or setting up new email or solving a problem on somebody's computer that locked up. And granted, a lot of these kids that come in have had a lot of experience through school and through their home computers, but it's not the same. People use summer interns, part-time helpers. I've seen businesses that hire somebody at a very low salary. They're not IT experts, but they're quick learners and they have a computer at home. The worst of all, in my experience, is when existing staff or partners or owners, call them stakeholders of a company, who know IT, usually who like doing IT stuff, they start supporting the business. And the reason that's the worst of all is even if they're very good, they don't do it full time, and more importantly, they're taking away valuable time that they could be spending on the business. I actually was brought in about a year ago to a partners meeting at a big law firm in downtown Cleveland. And their problem that came out was that one of their top partners, who was billing out at $750 an hour, was spending 80% of his time taking care of the IT systems. You can do the math, but that was unbelievably expensive. And even though this guy enjoyed it and was pretty good at it, he wasn't as good as somebody that did it full time. So don't do it yourself, and don't use informal, lesser trained people to do it. Spend the money, get qualified, experienced, productive IT professionals. And I don't care if it's full-time or outsourced. That's a whole analysis of its own to see if you can justify one or more full-time people that have the necessary expertise, or whether you outsource it to a firm that has similar expertise. Whichever way you go, I guarantee it will pay you back many times over. Don't do it yourself. Okay, let's move on to number 2, which in my opinion is the real meat of this whole webinar. It's really the single most important thing I want to talk to you about this morning. Number 2 is to stop being reactive. Get out of reactive mode. It's better to be proactive and keep little problems from turning into big ones. It's common sense, isn't it? Most of us know that if you take your car in for maintenance a few times a year, then it probably won't die when you're driving home one day in rush hour traffic. It's common sense. And yet, very few organizations are proactive with their IT. And I mean things like planning when to replace computers. You don't want to wait until everything starts breaking and realize, okay, now I got to buy 25 new computers. It's expensive. Everybody's down and frustrated. You're losing valuable time. And all you have to do is make a spreadsheet of the ages of each computer and start planning year by year how many computers you're going to replace at a time to keep everything fresh and working. Simple things. Maintaining warranty on your servers. That's the nerve center of your entire network. And yet, if something breaks and they're not in warranty, you can have a lot of trouble getting technical support and even parts. Making sure you have totally automated, redundant, secure backups. Extremely important, and it's surprising how many businesses don't. They have backups, but they're not good backups. And in fact, that's going to be the topic of an upcoming webinar, so stay tuned for that one. Another thing is keeping up with the operating system security patches. Very important, and you can't just do it when you think of it. There has to be a schedule. Somebody has to monitor it. Somebody has to see what the security patches are and if they're worth implementing. Sometimes they're not. Usually they are because there's security breaches that hackers figure out, and these are patches to keep them from getting in and exploiting those vulnerabilities. And you also need a really easy way for staff to report issues. Don't worry, if you don't do this, they'll be screaming and saying, my computer doesn't work, I can't get in, I can't get the reports to you. But you don't want that. You got to plan for an easy way for them to be able to report even the subtlest things that go wrong before they turn into big problems. So everything I'm talking about can be fairly easily turned around. You just need to focus on being proactive, take a look at each of these things, figure out who's going to do it and when, and then occasionally monitor it. So that's the first step to becoming more proactive than reactive. The tougher part of being proactive is the incredible complexities of information technology. Despite the attractive and sometimes fun interface that you get in Windows or on your Mac, and despite manufacturer efforts to make you believe the opposite, that everything is so simple now that a 3-year-old can do half of what we do, the truth is, beneath the surface where the problems occur is extremely sophisticated and complex logic, hardware, firmware. It's unbelievably sophisticated. Now, there's been an evolution of tools to help people better manage those thousands of things that can go wrong at the highly technical underlayer of our IT infrastructures. And it actually started probably 10 years ago with email alerts. And examples are backup systems. A lot of people used a program called Backup Exec to do their network type backups. And a very good, powerful program. And one of the features that it had was you could set up people's email addresses, and when a job completed successfully, it would send them an alert in their email and saying, the job last night completed successfully, and here's the size of the file. It would also let you know if there was a failure. So that way, as long as you're watching your email and somebody was keeping track of it, you had a pretty good idea if the backups were going as they were expected to be. It wasn't perfect by any means, and this is just for backups. And of course, there's thousands of other things on your systems, from applications of all types to email going back and forth to a lot of internal processes. But this was taking at least the tip of the iceberg and doing something about it. The next evolution was a program that I used for 7 or 8 years called Alchemy I. And they had a free version. It's still around. I think the paid version was only about $60. But it gave you the ability to set up custom tests and alerts for hundreds of things throughout your network. So you could set one test to make sure that the email was up and running. You could do another one they called a ping test, which would check that every workstation and server was responding. and so on. You could do this for printers and all kinds of other processes. And then you could tell it how often to run. And it just sat on a computer, and 24/7, it would be running these tests constantly, sometimes every minute or two, sometimes every 10 minutes. And if a computer became unresponsive, it would detect it, and then it would send an email message to whoever was managing the process and let them know. So that was a nice big step beyond email alerts, still not where we needed it to be. There are so many other things that Alchemy I couldn't keep track of, but at least it was a big improvement over email alerts. The next evolution was Spiceworks. And Spiceworks has been around for quite a while, and it's been evolving and improving. The neat thing about Spiceworks is it's completely free. It's a download, and it's a very comprehensive program that's constantly being added to. New functionality is being added all the time. You run Spiceworks, and it sends out probes to all the different computers in the network, and it collects information, and it starts doing automatic testing of everything out there. So unlike Alchemy I, you did not have to program each one of these tests separately for each one of the computers. Of course, in its default state, Spiceworks sent out so many email alerts that you'd go crazy. I mean, I received hundreds and hundreds of them within the first 3 or 4 hours, and then I had to sit down and start turning a lot of them off because they weren't useful. But still, a big improvement over Alchemy I. For most businesses, with anything more than 5 computers and a server, it still was too much of the wrong information, but at least it was a lot of information, which was better than what we had before. So the idea of this evolution has been to get to a point where an IT professional could have a central management console of just the high priority problems that go on from anywhere within the whole IT network. So the newest and the best of all these tools are called remote monitoring and management systems, or sometimes you'll hear them called RMM for short. They're software sensors that you install on all the computers in the network, and they also have special ways of communicating with all the other things in your network. The printers, the switches, the routers. And it actually goes way beyond that. There's special ways of communicating with backup routines, with custom software that you depend upon. So very, very flexible, always coming up with new features. I'm just being told by Bridget that part of your screen is chopped off, so I'm going to see if I can fix that for you real quickly. And let's see how we're doing here. No? Still there? Huh. Well, this just reinforces what I've been saying about the thousands of things that can go wrong with IT. Looks like it's a little bit better now, so we're going to keep going. So anyway, RMMs are the most recent way of being proactive in an IT environment, and they're very effective. They're so much better than email alerts, Alchemy I, and even Spiceworks. Some examples of things, just so you can get a feel for what these RMMs do. And there really are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that they're testing right out of the box. But things like drive space, memory usage, CPU utilization, interruptions in your antivirus software, mailbox size versus capacity, needing updates to Windows and also applications, and much, much more. So that's the tip of the iceberg, but you can start getting a sense that if you've got something that's monitoring 24/7, these and hundreds of other things on every computer and device in your network, and only alerts you to the most critical things that it starts seeing happening, it can be a very valuable tool to becoming more proactive and less reactive. Okay, all of this is tracked on every computer around the clock. It's displayed and prioritized in real time on a central console. And there's also automated alerts and reporting. So it covers the spectrum of how to efficiently let people know that there's a problem. Now, this is a quick screenshot of an RMM of the master console that an IT person would be using. And we could have a whole webinar just on this. But the point is that if you look over on the left side of the screen, that's a list of all your computers and servers. On the right side of the screen at the top are each of the individual devices that we want to look at, and it's prioritized them. So the first two at the top, first three actually, have some red X's, which means those need attention, something's going on. The green ones are fine, so they've passed all their tests for now, and you don't have to worry about them. The lower part of the screen gets specific with when I'm highlighting that first line with the two X's, it's saying that there was a Windows service check and a backup failed, and then you can drill down and get more specific about it. So it's a very efficient way to prioritize and identify problems that are small, that are just starting to happen before they turn into something major where people would start to notice and report it. So RMM tools are designed to be used by professional IT engineers. It's not a do-it-yourself system. And as you know already, I'm not a big believer in do-it-yourselfers for IT. Now let's back up and see how an RMM system has helped my clients spend less money on maintenance and repairs just in this last week. And I'm just going to highlight one or two of them. I've actually got several identified here. But one of them was it identified a workstation where a virus had disabled the antivirus software running on it and made it look like it was running. It wasn't running, and the workstation could have gotten all kinds of infections that could have spread throughout the network. But because this came up as a red X on the screen, we were able to resolve it within about 5 minutes, and it prevented what could have been a disaster. I'll just do one more. It identified a server hard drive that was starting to fail, but it had not. So everything was up and running, but if this had waited until things got serious, the server could have crashed, everybody would have been down, it would have been a disaster. Because of this alert, we got in there, we swapped out one hard drive, the server never went down for a minute, and everything was fixed. So I'm going to skip past a few of them just because of time, but all these slides are available, and I'll tell you more about that in just a couple of minutes, so you'll be able to read through the rest of those. So the point being, use an RMM service for the ultimate in being proactive with your IT infrastructure. The last thing, very quickly, is we want to go beyond problem solving. Now that we've figured out a way by being proactive to get you a whole lot more of your IT budget to use for other things, we can use it to improve the business. And my biggest recommendation is to form an IT committee. You use it to discuss recent maintenance and costs to make sure you're on track, confirm efforts to be more proactive, present new technologies that can improve the business, one of my favorites. You can discuss user pain points and how to use technology to address them, and you can and should be planning upgrades, replacements, and projects for the future. Now, who should be on the IT committee? Typically, management has one or two people there. Users, you should have 2 or 3 vocal and interested staff people. They don't have to be IT experts. They probably shouldn't be. And you want to have an IT expert, possibly the one person, a senior person, and maybe a manager. But importantly, the IT people don't lead these meetings. They're participants. They have a voice and they present some new ideas, but they join in with everybody else. That's how it benefits the entire organization. Also, these IT committee meetings should meet monthly. You want to pre-schedule them. Schedule them out for the entire year. Require that each participant prepare for the meeting beforehand, and require that they actively participate to be on the committee. So let's recap. Number 1, don't do it yourself. 2, stop being reactive, become more proactive. And then 3rd, use the extra resources that you have from being more proactive to really improve your business. That's how you're going to avoid the IT trap. Okay, so before we turn it over for questions, all the PowerPoint slides are going to be available on the group site, the BBB group site. If you want more information like this, then sign up for my free blog, which is called the Right Click Weekly, and there's the address. It's at rootinfotech.com. And I want to really thank you for taking the time to join us. I value your time and appreciate you doing that. And then also on here's my contact information. So if you have any questions about this or right click, then feel free to get a hold of me. Okay, well, because I ran over, I'm going to end it at this point. But again, if you do have questions, feel free to drop me an email at Kerry@rootinfotech.com. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thanks again. I'll be looking forward to the next webinar where I'll be talking to you about backups. Have a nice day.